How's it going, everybody? So, apologize for the camera work. So what's going on? So I'm about to do a test. I spent some time thinking about chains and how I can get a semi chisel chain to cut similarly to a chisel chain. And for those that know or are more familiar with the chains, so your chisel chain's your sharpest, your semi chisel chain holds a edge a little better, but because it doesn't have the chisel corner, it doesn't cut as fast. It doesn't pull as hard generally out of the box. So I wanted to come up with a recipe that I could put on a semi chisel chain to make it pull better but still have longevity and performance in hard, like dirty wood, so dirty rotten wood that would normally just dull the crap out of a chisel chain. So I'll explain to you a little bit what I come up with. I come up with a 35-degree top plate angle. So my top plate's at 35 degrees here instead of 30. And my head tilt angle on my grinder, so it's this angle right here. So this angle coming in up underneath the tooth, sorry for the camera work, this angle here is set to 55. I normally run it on run it at 60 on chisel chains, and it pulls really well, and that's about what the stock setting is. So I decreased, or maybe increased, because this was a stock chain that had only been used a couple times, so the only time it's been sharpened is when I reset everything. So this angle was set at 55, this angle was set at 35. So I done a couple test cuts with it, was real happy with how hard it pulls a lot harder than a regular semi chisel chain. Now what I have for a comparison is, this is a brand new out of the box chisel chain, full skip 72 LPX, never cut wood. So my goal was to get the semi chisel chains to cut like, to cut about as good as an out of the box chisel chain, which is a huge improvement. So rakers hadn't been touched. If you see a little shiny spot on a raker, it's because my grinder kind of tipped it as I was getting that angle up underneath there. So I'm about to fire this thing here up and make a couple cuts with it, then we'll stop and swap chains and make a couple cuts, and then we'll see how well they cut compared to each other. Smelled gas leaking out, so sometimes I'll be right back. Alright, so always check your fluids before you start something. I also just noticed that this doesn't have a tank vent, so I gotta fix that. And my allergies are killing me. Like, I feel like my left eye is about to pop out of my head. This pollen, man. This is white oak. It's got some months on it. This is white oak. It's got it's pretty hard. It's got a little bit of spalting here on the side, but the center's still really hard and tight. And there's a couple knots, so if you see it wah, and then all of a sudden it stops for a second, it's because I'm going through a knot. That's that one right there. All right, I'll bring you back when I got the chain swapped. Alright, so I got the fresh full chisel skip tooth chain on there, just so you can see. Full skip, brand new, never cut anything, super sharp, same bar. We're about to make a couple cuts, compare. To be perfectly honest, I mean it's kind of close, but I still think that that full chisel outperforms the semi chisel even at the current grinds. But to be completely honest with you, I was kind of hoping that they would be almost neck and neck. Maybe the semi chisel cut a little better, but I don't know. I'd have to break the times down and and look at the times, because I think they're really close. But I still think that the factory semi chisel full skip pulls a little harder, pulls better. But you know, at the same time, that is another big disadvantage. Your semi chisel is full comp, and my chisel chain I'm using is full skips, so it's not a perfect comparison, but it just goes to show what you can do with a couple angle changes with your semi chisel chain. So alright, well, I hope y'all enjoyed that video. Maybe it helped somebody. Those grind angles on the semi chisel chain were kind of prompted from a guy who was asking about cutting scorched pine from a burn patch, and my suggestion to him was to go ahead and take the angles back to 35 and 55 on the tilt, and he would have a higher performing semi chisel chain that would carry an edge better in that burnt wood than a full chisel or an RS chain would. So that was my suggestion, and I wanted to test it out. So here I am, and I think it performs way outperforms the stock stuff, the stock angles. So you have gains there. But y'all got to see my Mastermind MS660 with the 066 furniture run again. I got to put a tank vent in it. Anyway, y'all have a good one. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. So I got one more thing I'd just like to add. PS, as it were. So if you think about productivity between the two chains and using one over the other, if you swap out chains, it won't be such a huge deal, because you don't have to sit there and sharpen. But if you're a hand filer and you have to file your chains there in the field, then you may want to go with the more aggressive semi chisel chain. And it's a possibility, in theory, if you think as you're cutting side by side, one person's using the chisel chain, one person's using the more aggressive semi chisel chain. Since the semi chisel chain holds the edge longer, as you start out, your chisel chain is going to be making cuts faster. And then as the chisel chain dulls, the semi chisel chain's not near about as dull, and then your cuts start becoming the same time, and then eventually your semi chisel is cutting faster than your full chisel chain. And then you swap out and go back to cutting or go sharpen while the semi chisel chain's still making cuts, and then swap out. That time, as the teeth are wearing out, could very well close the gap in productivity even more when I think about it. So it's something to think about. So anyway, again, y'all have a good one.